Things of the Gippsland region. So we have 5 tribal groups which occupied all the Gippsland area. So the first one is down in the south of Gippsland, the Brattlung clan, which occupied all the south Gippsland region. Then we have the Brackalung clan, which occupied from central Gippsland back towards the west. The Tatungalung tribal people, or the Gippsland Lake system, and the part of the camp, or the location of the camp, will be in the traditional area of the Tatungalung people on the Gippsland Lakes. Here in Bairnsdale, which was the central tribe, the Brabbalung people occupied the Bairnsdale region, but also taking the northern parts of Bairnsdale. And then we have the last group, which is the Crowatungalung people from the far east, from Snow River country back towards the far east. Then we have the other neighbouring group here, which is the Bidawal people. So they occupied the far east of Gippsland back over towards the New South Wales border. But these are our 5 tribal groups of Gippsland here, the Gunai, Kurnai people. So this is just a brief sort of description of our tribal boundaries and groups. But in Victoria alone, there's about 38 different Aboriginal language groups across the state. The keeping place was there was a vision from our elders during the early 70s to establish our own keeping place or cultural centre. And I guess the vision was a part of the whole planning of the organisation as we have it today. So the keeping place was also important to have a lot of our cultural materials certainly returned back to our community, because a lot of our traditional pieces were all collected by farmers or people that worked in the churches. They were then handed to the State Museum in Melbourne, where they've been housed in the Melbourne Museum for over 150 years. So we had to work closely with the museum and other institutions to identify a lot of our Gippsland cultural materials so that they can be returned back, and that pretty much forms the permanent collections of our keeping place. So as you can see from a lot of our images, photographic images, and I guess a lot of variety of different cultural materials on display as well. So obviously we've also sourced more materials from the general public, and obviously people have come in and realised that it's a place where we can actually take a lot of our cultural materials back. So we often have people that donating materials back to the museum. Yeah. This is one of the bark canoes here. I think this one was the actual last one that was made out at Lake Tyers back in the 30s. Have carvings of a lot of our traditional markings of our area. So once again, very distinct to Gippsland. So a lot of our traditional markings, and obviously you'll find a lot of these traditional markings on a lot of our traditional arts and crafts. So obviously the older people have certainly made their mark on a lot of their artefacts. And that then people can identify that particular person belongs to this particular clan group from where these markings actually belong. Yeah, this sort of forms part of our history, and we all need to know that, sort of what had happened in the past. Yeah. A bit of an honour with the boomerangs there. Yeah. So this is the property we sort of know as Poole, but also the other name for it is, this is the whole Poole Peninsula. It's one big peninsula. This particular sort of point here is called Round Head, and yeah, sort of the property here. We actually the co-op, the GEGAC, had actually sort of worked with the Indigenous Land Corporation, the ILC, to actually acquire this particular property. And I guess the reason for that being was that there was like Aboriginal remains exposed on the dune site here, which is sort of more on the sort of south side. The actual landowner at the time sort of contacted, I think it was Aboriginal Affairs or the Victorian Archaeological Survey, to let them know that there were human remains that was being exposed. After some initial assessments and checking out of the site, that the actual remains were found to be Aboriginal.
and that's how we sort of wanted to try and acquire the property, to certainly look at how we can protect that particular site. So the actual site was sort of exposed in the early 80s, and I think we actually acquired the property sort of in the late 90s. So I guess the bit of sort of time frame there was actually to sort of do a lot of work to try and to see how far the actual site, or the remains were, how far that site was exposed. And I guess a lot of the work that went into the place was to actually try and stabilise that particular site and look at ways of sort of protecting it. This is part of the traditional lands of the Tatungalung people. So the Tatungalung people is one of the clan groups of the Gunai Kurnai people. So we have 5 groups. The Tatungalung people, they pretty much occupied all of the Gippsland Lakes area. So this particular area would come within their traditional boundaries. A lot of our people and the communities see that, you know, that these particular places or sites are going to always be under the management and control of the Aboriginal community, and that we certainly make the necessary decisions on how we manage those places. So it certainly comes back to us as I guess custodians of our land and culture, and how we come together to make decisions for the benefit of our property and for our people as well. Yep.
Because this is all still part of it, yeah?
Yeah. I think the boundary actually goes back around, and you'll see a track. There's a track just around the back here. And I think that just sort of forms the whole of the property, or the boundary of this property here.
So where did you find the roo last night? Was it this side or the other side?
We sort of started down this side, then we come right around, and we've only seen one hog deer over here, and so we thought, well, we'll go and try on the other side, because there's actually a nice open plains there, and there's also a water hole.
Oh, okay.
So that's where we actually, seen the kangaroo. There's the only one there, so
Poor bastard, was there anyone there?
So he was lucky. We were lucky, but he was unlucky.